Let me ask you to relax just a second before you can remain standing, but I want to make a comment or two before we collectively give a pledge. At this time, I would like for you to recognize the young Marines, Thomas A. Blair Detachment, for their service tonight. In just a minute, I'm going to ask, and we'll lead you in the pledge to the American flag. But before I do that, many of you think that we've had a pledge since the beginning of our nation, and we have not. We've not even had a national recognized flag since the beginning of the nation. That's a long story, and I will not bore you with all of that tonight, but I do want to talk a little bit about the pledge. We did not have a pledge until 1892, and at that point, there was a need to reunite our nation in the years following the Civil War, and at a time when we were receiving millions of people from other lands, immigrants who were coming in, who knew nothing of our history, nothing of our land. And so there was a great need to bring our country back together again. And two gentlemen wrote the pledge. It was a much simpler pledge than the one that we say tonight. It was first used in October 1892, October 12th, 1892, across the nation, when all of the schools across the nation were asked to have all of their students at a particular time during the day raise the flag and offer this pledge that had been written for them. October 12th, 1892 was the 400th anniversary of Columbus so-called discovering America, and in those days it was well celebrated. The pledge has been modified 4 times since then. Most of those have just been English grammatical corrections, adding an of and adding a the and that sort of thing. But the last major change came in 1954, when a very important addition was given to a short phrase. Following the words, one nation, the phrase was then expanded to say, one nation under God. Keep in mind that there is not a comma between one nation and under God. It is all one phrase. So I ask tonight, as we say the pledge, that you speak it correctly, and hopefully that you will remember and educate some of your friends who always pause after nation. So this time we will not. So if you will stand at attention, the veterans who desire to salute may do so with a hand salute. Others are asked to take off their hats and place your hat on your shoulder so that your hand is over your heart. And either with the hand salute here or hand salute to your brow, would you follow with me the pledge to the American flag? Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Take your seats for just a moment. I want to introduce to you 2 wonderful young ladies that we are very blessed to have with us tonight. These are 2 young ladies who are, we'll have you stand again in just a moment here as they sing the National Anthem, but let me tell you about them. We're very pleased to have a singing duo that is known professionally as Alaska and Maddie. They're with us, and we're going to first ask that they sing our National Anthem, and later in the program you will hear them present another patriotic numbers. These talented young ladies have been singing together for more than a decade. They're becoming well known nationally after being members of Team Blake. For those of you who watch the NBC series The Voice, when they were members of Team Blake on season 6 of NBC, they became extremely famous. They now split their time between Nashville, Music City, and Tulsa, and Broken Arrow, and Jinx, but they're performing all over the United States, and today they're here in Broken Arrow to perform for us. I'd ask that you please welcome Miss Alaska Holloway, Miss Maddie Metcalf. Maddie's hometown is Jinx, Alaska's hometown is Broken Arrow. Recognize them for their performance of the National Anthem. Would you please, in accordance with protocol, would you please stand and salute as they sing the National Anthem to our flag.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you. You may be seated, and we will continue. We're a very blessed community, and I know that many of you know that you also are very blessed as individuals. I think it's very appropriate on an occasion like this, in a community such as this, that we take time to give thanks to God our Creator, and that we have a short invocation. You will bow with me, those of you who are of different faith than I may be. I'm going to speak a prayer in accordance with my own faith, and if you have a different faith and want to pray silently, I encourage you to do that. But let's go to the Lord invocation for this occasion. Our Heavenly Father, we come to you with grateful hearts today. Even though we may be of many different beliefs, we recognize that you are God, our Creator, for many of us, Lord of our lives, and we thank you for the privilege of coming to you in prayer to not only give you praise, but to ask for guidance in our lives. We thank you for this occasion. We thank you for this wonderful city. You have blessed us as a community. You've blessed us as individuals. You've blessed us as a nation. And even though at times we're a very troubled nation, we continue to ask for your guidance, and all of our leaders that you have instructed us to do, we lift them up and ask that you give them wisdom and favor in the activities that they undertake. Father, tonight we ask that we invoke your presence with us for this occasion. We ask that you give favor to all of those who will be presenting on the program, give them guidance in their activities. And we thank you for the safety of travel for all of those who've come here, and safety of travel as we leave to return to our homes. We give you praise and we thank you for this, and we ask these things in your name. Amen. Amen. Thank you. One of the challenges of Master of Ceremonies is trying to get all the people properly introduced who need to be, and I want to assure you, even though we have a number of people on stage tonight, they're not all going to speak, so you can you can relax. Some of them will, but you relax a little bit. Introducing a number of people is always a little bit of a challenge, because people like to applaud persons as they are introduced, as they stand or as they wave their hand. But let me ask you to do something a little unusual. Do you know what an applause is? Anyone know what an applause is? An applause is one hand clap. When we give an applause, you just keep going. And I know that as we introduce a number of people, you'll want to applaud all of them. But for this particular occasion, until we have introduced each one, we're going to ask that you only give one applause. And I'll give you a signal when to give that. So let's practice to see if you can do an applause. Not an applause, an applause. You ready? A little ragged. Let's do it together now. An applause. Good. Now you have it down. So each time I introduce one, when I give you the hand signal, you applaud that person with one applause. I probably have them a little bit out of sequence, but we're going to try to get them right, and I'm going to ask that if they want to stand or at least raise their hand so that you'll know which one I am introducing. On my right, on your left, in the front row, let me introduce to you one of our very special guests who has been touring the United States in this support of the Purple Heart organization. The one on the left is Mr. Thom. Purple Heart recipient and our guest of honor. You're ragged. Let's work on that again. Next to Mr. Thom is our keynote speaker for tonight. He'll be reintroduced a little bit later with more appropriately, but the Honorable Dr. Mike Ritz, the Oklahoma State Legislature state representative from this area. There you go. You're getting better. Next to him, unless I'm out of sequence here, is Mr. Larry Skyver, who is the Governor's Commission of Veterans Affairs in Oklahoma. Would you give him an applause? There you go. Next, we had a little rearranging here before things started this morning. Next to him is the Vice Mayor of the City of Oklahoma. You'll hear some comments from him in a little bit, the Honorable Scott Udi. Next to him, City Councilor Mike Lester, City Councilor Johnny Parks, City Councilor Ms. Debbie Wimpy, and on the far left, the City Manager of Broken Arrow, Mr. Michael Spurgeon, and you'll hear some of him. We'll get through that. On your right and on my left, we have. I guess I'm on the back row there. Have Miss Elaine Childers. Not yet. Elaine is the daughter of the late Lieutenant Colonel Ernest Childers, Medal of Honor recipient from Broken Arrow. And in his honor, he's the namesake of the Order of Purple Heart chapter for this area. And you'll hear more about him and about his activities and probably about a sculpture in his honor tonight. But anyway, now let's give Elaine her applause. Thank you. Next to him is Mr. Mike Sturgill, Commander of the Military Order of Purple Heart, Oklahoma Department. Mr. Charles Atkins, Commander of the Military Order of Purple Heart, Arkansas Department. Mr. Ralph Pointer, Commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 10887. Mr. Ralph Henderson, President of the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 216. And Mr. Eugene Peters, Commander of the American Legion, Post 110. Now I'll give all of these dignitaries a round of applause. I think I missed Mr. Alex Thom right there. And Alex is accompanying Nicholas that I introduced earlier. So again, give Alex his applause. Well, you're good sports. I appreciate that. And, at this time, I would like to introduce to you and ask him to come to the microphone, Mr. Mitch Reid, who is the commander of the Military Order of Purple Heart, Chapter 589, to give you some official welcoming remarks from that organization and give you instructions about tonight. Mitch.
Thank you, Dr. Oliver. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's an absolute pleasure to have this kind of evening in August, is all I'm going to say about that. Anyway, I'm Mitch Reid. I'm the chapter commander of the Ernest Childers Military Order of Purple Heart, local chapter. Scott Udi, Michael Spurgeon, and council members and other distinguished guests and citizens of Broken Arrow, I would like to thank Miss Elaine Childers, daughter of Lieutenant Colonel Ernest Childers, for attending. The Purple Heart is a specifically combat decoration, and it is our nation's oldest military medal. Created by General George Washington in 1782 and originally known as the Badge of Military Merit, was given to 6 Revolutionary War soldiers. However, the award faded from use shortly after the United States gained independence. The award was reestablished in 1932 as President Herbert Hoover, per War Department, General Orders Number 3, and renamed the Purple Heart. Criteria for the presentation stated it is awarded to members of the United States of Armed Forces who are wounded by an instrument of war at the hands of the ceremony. And I'm out of order. At the hands of the enemy, and posthumously to the next of kin in the name of those who are killed in action. The first to receive the new Purple Heart was General Douglas MacArthur. In 1973 and again in 2015, the criteria for awarding the Purple Heart was amended to include us service members being wounded or killed by attacks or acts committed by terrorist groups against the United States or allies friendly to the United States. Freedom is not free. The heritage of the Purple Heart medal is sacred to those who understand the price paid to wear it. It is worn by the bloodshed on the battlefields of the American colonies when we obtained our independence from England. It has been guaranteed on the battlefields of Europe, the Pacific, Southeast Asia, and most recently the Middle East to ensure that all Americans might continue to enjoy the freedoms that we fought to preserve. The designation of Broken Arrow as a Purple Heart City is a very fitting and patriotic expression, gratitude for the cost of freedom. We are really honored to be receiving the Purple Heart truck, which I threw this together in about 2 months, ladies and gentlemen. That's unheard of, because they announced that they were going to go to Lawton and then come to Broken Arrow, and that just made it all great. And I've been wanting to make Broken Arrow a Purple Heart City for 4 years, and I finally got it done, so I'm tickled. Nicholas, Thom, and Brother Alex will demonstrate the truck after the ceremony. Lance Corporal Nicholas Thom was medically retired after being seriously wounded in April of 2010, clearing villages of Taliban fighters. He is a lifetime member of the Purple Heart and other veterans organizations. He has taken up golf, involved in veterans wellness programs in his home of Broad Run, Virginia, with his wife Samantha. I'm sure he will go a lot of places because a quote of his from Booker T is success is not to be measured so much by the position one has reached in life as by the obstacles which he has overcome trying to succeed. I would like to point out this memorial is unique as salutes the women warriors of the United States behind me. Looks like my wife typed this up and left us some words. Hope she's not here to hear that. First Lieutenant Jaron Lane was the first woman killed in action in June of '69, just 3 short months after I received my second Purple Heart. And the nurses of this great country mean so much to combat wounded veterans. And she was the first woman killed in action, and that's a crying shame, because she died during an artillery attack being a nurse at an evac hospital in Vietnam. But I would like to thank all veteran service organizations and Broken Arrow Blue Star mothers and the help that I have received from a lot of people for the hard work they have provided to help get this ceremony in place. And I'll save the rest of this for later. And everything. So I'll give it back to you, Dr. Oliver, and I'll read this part later.
Thank you. Mitch made the comment that the local chapter of the Military Order of Purple Heart has as its namesake, and I think I mentioned it too, Lieutenant Colonel Ernest Childers. For those of you who are not familiar with Veterans Park, let me point to your attention on your left, the statue that is there in the oval is based on the image of Lieutenant Colonel Childers, who received the Medal of Honor for his service in Italy during World War II as a member of the 45th Infantry Division. Just for your information, that statue was sculpted by a famous Apache artist, Alan Hauser, and that is the last major sculpture that he did. He was scheduled to be here for the unveiling and dedication, and he died 2 weeks before the unveiling and dedication. His wife and son were here for that dedication, but please take time to see the sculpture, Valor, of Elaine Childers. I've shared the story, and it has a little bit of humor in it, but when those of us who were working on getting that done, first, Ernest was retired from the military, was back in Broken Arrow living in the area. And I think Elaine still lives in the home, where it was with their family home out east, northwest of Coweta. And we had to ask permission to do that. You don't just sculpt someone who's still living and say, here, we've got a sculpture of you. And he was very reluctant to agree to let that be done. And since I had known him for a number of years and we had some other kinds of ties, I was asked to continue to go out and meet with him to get permission. About half a dozen telephone calls and a couple of visits later, he finally said, okay, I'll give in and let it be done. But he said, I have some provisions that I want to specify that you will honor. He said, I do not want to be depicted in a military uniform openly. I want to have some Indian heritage. And I do not want to be carrying a weapon, because even though I've had a great combat experience and have been involved in some battles, I would like to be viewed as a peaceful person. I said, well, we can make sure the artist doesn't have you with a weapon and those kinds of things. He said, secondly, he said, I've been in Italy and I've seen all those naked statues. And he said, I'm not going to be standing out in the park naked. I said, well, that can be handled. And he said, the third request I have, he said, and he pointed to me and he said, I want you to promise me that at least once a year you will go to the park and clean off the pigeon droppings. I made the promise, and it's a little tall for me to get up on there, so I have to ask for park assistance. And I came by last year one time, and there were pigeon droppings up on his shoulders. And I called the park department, and immediately they were out and cleaning it. So we're still honoring Elaine, we're still honoring Ernest's request on that. To your right, and over in the right, is another patriotic sculptor, another Broken Arrowan. Hank Michener served two tours of duty in Vietnam, and was first in the Marine Corps, and then later was in an airborne, and then later in Special Forces, and had a distinguished service. He retired and was a major when he died after he returned home. But that sculpture was financed in Broken Arrow by a large number of people who donated to fund it in recognizing of Hank. Hank was a 1956 graduate of Broken Arrow High School. And again, this is another hometown hero. Had several awards. Information about his stature is there at the base, and I encourage you to see that. But that statue is in honor of all people who have served, all veterans who have served, and it's titled American Patriot. Behind us is a sculpture that honors women, and I hope after the ceremony you have time to come and look at it. It honors the women who have served this country in a variety of capacities, including the military, from the Revolutionary War days to the modern War on Terror days. And come and look at those memorials and honor those. Broken Arrow has done a good job of recognizing the military, and I'm very appreciative of what they've done now. Our guest speaker tonight is a person who has great regard and great respect for people who are recipients of the Purple Heart and who are disabled. He is a state representative from House District 80 in Broken Arrow. He also is a veteran of the United States Army Medical Corps and held the rank of captain. He's a life member of the Disabled American Veterans Association, and we'll share with you a little bit of that information. A native of Missouri, he received his Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine and Kirksville College of Osteopathic Medicine in Missouri. Came to Oklahoma, completed medical residency through the Oklahoma State University Medical Center in family practice. Has practiced family medicine in Broken Arrow all those years since then. He's board certified in that area. He also earned advanced degrees in forensic science administration from Oklahoma State University College of Health Sciences. And he happened to graduate summa cum laude in that particular program, which is pretty impressive to me. He and his wife Connie have 4 children. He is an ordained Southern Baptist deacon, a Sunday school teacher at Arrow Heights Baptist Church. He and Connie have served on several medical missionary journeys to Mexico and Honduras. But he's a member of the Sons of American Revolution, National Rifle Association, Gun Owners of America. He's your kind of a guy. I'd like you to welcome, please, the Honorable Dr. Mike Ritz, representative of the Oklahoma State Legislature, and a good friend, Mike.
Thank you, Dr. Oliver. It is an honor to be here in my hometown of 42 years. I pride ourselves in Broken Arrow, and our leaders in Broken Arrow are very strong to support our veterans. And I want to let you know that the state of Oklahoma is now third, soon to be second in the nation of military retirees coming back or coming to Oklahoma to call their home. As Dr. Oliver said, I have served in the U.S. Army Medical Corps. I have had a lot of family dating back to the American Revolution. I have 2 8th great-grandfathers that were certified as members of the Revolutionary Army. And I'd like to just share with you a few things that are really dear to my heart. When I came to Broken Arrow, I felt like that we needed to reach out to our veterans, and to our veterans here tonight, our families, attendees, but especially to our veterans, thank you for your service. And to my comrades, welcome home. The special memory that comes back to me, 30 years ago, I came with a group of Vietnam veterans to the city council after we had asked the city of Tulsa council to change the name of Boston Park to Veterans Park. And I came to Broken Arrow and asked them if we could have some type of commemoration with Central Park, and they told us that this was dedicated for the JCs, but soon to be, hopefully, we'd have another standalone, and now we have a very proud Veterans Park. Aren't we proud of this and what we have and how we love our veterans? I've been honored to volunteer. I stopped counting at 300 disabled veterans to give my time free of charge to help them. Many of those veterans, Broken Arrowans, that had service-connected injuries, and because of the fire in St. Louis, we lost a lot of their records, but we were able to recreate some of them to Normandy Beach, one of them in particular that you all would know, Ken Mullins, that was run over by a tank. Later on had some severe health problems, and we recreated him to get him 100% disability. Herman McCaskill and many others that you all would recognize as Broken Arrowans that we helped found a DAV chapter here, and they now have a second chapter, and our chapter is not meeting anymore, but the new chapter is doing well for the DAV, and we were able to now look at some of the heroes that were left to the side, that were Purple Heart recipients, that were injured, that were taken to facilities that they forgot about, and we've been able to recreate a lot of those veterans and work with them. One of my heroes in Broken Arrow is a recent hero, Richard Gousset. He's a relative of mine, and Richard was an Army intelligence individual and has done tremendous work with our museum. And if you haven't seen our Broken Arrow Military Museum, please take time to go and tour it. It is so proud to see the history there that's been donated by a lot of veterans, and recreating the history of America and the veterans and the military service, and especially the Purple Heart recipients in our hometown here. I want to mention a couple of veterans that kind of got overlooked. One of them I've talked before about, and they actually made we did state coins, and the Delaware coin, they did a coin for him. His name was Caesar Rodney. He's one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. Caesar Rodney was an attorney. He was a wealthy landowner from England and Delaware, and he had it made, but he was asked on a rainy night, a stormy night, probably as bad as what we see in Oklahoma and Delaware, to ride to Philadelphia by horseback and sign the Declaration of Independence. And the interesting thought about this history, I know Dr. Oliver knows where we get the word history from our Lord and Savior, his story. But the history of Caesar Rodney is he rode all night, and he was suffering from a very disfiguring skin cancer on his face, and he had to cover it up with a veil. And when he signed the Declaration of Independence, he said, "I just sealed my fate because I can't go back to the only place in the world to get treatment, and that's in England." The lives, the fortunes, the sacred honor are very evident in Caesar Rodney. Also want to talk about a veteran. I'm not going to give his real name because of privacy, but he's a Broken Arrowman, and he served as a Walmart manager, and he came to me by referral of the DAV, and he was a Vietnam veteran. He was on a highly secretive mission above the DMZ in Vietnam, and he got captured with a group of, he was a Green Beret. He got captured immediately. The enemy broke his legs by taking AK-47s and hitting his knees, and he had to walk another 25 miles to a POW camp. And he was in the POW camp, and because it was a secret mission, they could not put a word out that he was made captive. And later, the guards at this camp, he told me, would play a game, and they would hang up the POWs by their fingers, and they'd lunge at them with a full bayonet rifle, and if the POW would draw back, then the guard won. If they didn't, might get injured, but the guard lost the little game they'd play. And as they were being rescued, a mission of another Green Berets went forward to rescue them in the POW camp above the DMZ. They were playing that game, and as they lunged forward, just as they attacked the camp, the guard was going at him, and the guard was shot. He fell into this veteran, completely opened him up from the abdomen, and he eviscerated himself, and the medics, all they could do was just pack it with whatever they had. And I accused some of them of using axle grease, but they saved his life, and we were able to get him, years later, get him recognized with 100% disability, and the VA took care of a lot of his injuries, and he continued as a Walmart manager for many years in the Broken Arrow area. One thing that we all know as veterans and families and veterans in Oklahoma, that all gave some, but some gave all. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Dr. Ritz. As always, he says things so nicely. For those of you who are getting a little thirsty, it is warm. I've been asked to advise you that into the canopies on either side are ice chests with cold water. If you'd like to get some, just walk over there and get it while we continue the activities. We're getting close to the end, but don't hesitate to get water if you need that. I appreciate that support. Present time, I'd like to recognize another gentleman who also has a special place in his heart for veterans, not so much for his own service, but for service of an ancestor that I'm sure he will tell you about. But I'd like for you to recognize the Vice Mayor of Broken Arrow, Mr. Scott Udi.
I asked to tell basically two very brief stories, because without these stories, the importance of today wouldn't be as emblazoned in me. And it's humbling to stand among people who did so much more than I've ever could have to secure the freedom I enjoy today. So I pray that you'll indulge me briefly. The first one I would tell you about is my grandfather, Jesse A. Dale Shook. Died November 1st, 2008, with the shrapnel left in him from the grenade that blew up next to him in World War II, where he earned the Purple Heart. He's still fit in the uniform when they lowered him in the grave, and I've never been more proud knowing that the sacrifice he gave allowed me to grow up in this country. And secondly, I tell of a Broken Arrowan, one whom I honor deeply every day because he has played such an important role in my life here in Broken Arrow. And he too earned the Purple Heart. In fact, at one point he was declared dead, and his family thought him to be dead because of his injuries in World War II. But nonetheless, he came home and shocked his wife, in fact, on the doorstep because she thought him to be dead. And then went on to be one of the greatest civil servants I can think of in Broken Arrow history, H.W. Jack Ross. Mr. Rooster Days. And it's these stories that tell us and remind us of the sacrifices that men like these gentlemen up here have made on our behalf. Those out you who gave blood, tears, sweat, missed weddings, missed funerals, missed loved ones, and did it so that I could stand here and humbly thank you from the bottom of my heart. And so that our city council could take a moment to thank you. And I am honored to represent the city council and offer this proclamation. Whereas the citizens of Broken Arrow have great admiration and deep gratitude for the men and women who have selflessly served their country and this community in the armed forces. And whereas the Purple Heart is the oldest military decoration in present use and was initially created as the badge of military merit by General George Washington in 1782. And whereas the Purple Heart was the first American Service Award or decoration made available to the common soldier and is specifically awarded to members of the United States Armed Forces who have been wounded or who have made the ultimate sacrifice in combat. And whereas the contributions of the men and women from the city of Broken Arrow who served in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedom and way of life enjoyed by our citizens. And whereas the city of Broken Arrow appreciates the sacrifices our Purple Heart recipients have made in defense of our freedoms and wishes to acknowledge their courage by honoring and supporting them. Now, therefore, I, Scott Udi, Vice Mayor, on behalf of Craig Thurman, Mayor of Broken Arrow, do hereby proclaim the city of Broken Arrow as a Purple Heart city.
At this point, the plaque right down here that we give the city, and I hope this microphone will make it that far and everything, but I would like to read the plaque. It says, the Military Order of the Purple Heart Special Recognition Award is bestowed with pride to Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, for being a Purple Heart city, honoring America's combat wounded, veterans, and all veterans. Presented by the Patriot members of Elaine Childers, Chapter 589, Military Order of the Purple Heart, USA. Dr. Oliver, you can have it. Oh, okay, we gonna let Michael Spurgeon do it now? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the city manager of the city of Broken Arrow, who is also a veteran, Mr. Michael Spurgeon.
Thank you, Commander. I just have some brief remarks. To the honorable members of the Broken Arrow City Council, to the honorable Oklahoma State Representative Dr. Ritz, to my good friend Dr. Clarence Oliver, to Commander Reid and all the distinguished commanders and the members of the various veteran organizations in attendance this evening, to all of our Purple Heart guests of honor, to distinguished guests that are behind me, and to our veterans, as well as everyone in attendance, on behalf of the Broken Arrow City Council, I'd like to thank everyone for coming to tonight's ceremony. I'm very honored to see such a great turnout for this truly tremendous occasion for our city. Scanning the crowd this beautiful evening, it is awesome to see so many people out to support and help honor those who have served our country in sacrifice in its defense. Let me take this opportunity to thank Gail Kirk from my office for her outstanding work in helping Commander Reid with the planning and organizing of this important initiative. I would also like to extend my appreciation and thanks to Representative Dr. Ritz for his remarks and his ongoing support of our veterans and Broken Arrow's endeavor to become a Purple Heart City. As a veteran of the United States Army and the Broken Arrow City Manager, I consider it a proud day for our community to join an elite group of cities in Oklahoma and around the country in becoming a Purple Heart City. It is a great honor to have this designation. As we have heard, the Military Order of the Purple Heart is composed of military men and women who receive the Purple Heart Medal for wounds suffered during combat. Only a few can understand what that means, them and their families, and for them we truly thank you for your sacrifice to this great country. Too often our veterans do not receive the recognition they deserve for their sacrifices they've made in defense of freedom. However, I know for a fact that citizens in Broken Arrow do appreciate the service and are very proud to support the veterans within this community. I know that because the City Council has been working with the veterans for many years, and we're actually going to be working with them on hopefully the dedication of a building to your left sometime in the next couple of years to support our veterans on an ongoing effort for their needs to gather and help each other out going forward. Becoming a Purple Heart City and visibly thanking wounded veterans and their family members, the City of Broken Arrow and its citizens can show respect and appreciation for the service and sacrifice they made for many years to come. In closing, I would like to thank everybody for coming out tonight to support our wounded warriors, and at this time I would like to ask Vice Mayor Udi and the City Council members to come forward and to help unveil the Purple Heart designation for our community.
Thank you, Mr. Spurgeon and City Council. I know you'll have an opportunity to look at this plaque much closer when we dismiss here in a little bit. Now I'd like to ask that you welcome back Alaska and Maddie for performance of America the Beautiful. Again, this dynamic duo from hometown Broken Arrow and Jinx.
We're gonna change it up. We're not gonna sing America the Beautiful. We're gonna sing God Bless America.
We'd like you to sing along with us if you would like so.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night. to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam.